Hello, and welcome to Around the Political World with John Ruthman. I am your host, John Ruthman. If you're a fan of the show, make sure to hit the follow button on the top right of Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you are listening at this very moment. When you hit follow, leave a review or share an episode with a friend. It helps other people discover the show, keeps us going, and as I like to remind you each and every day, it expands our base. There is so much news this morning. Let's begin with a no surprise. No surprise, Barack and Michelle Obama have endorsed Kamala Harris for President of the United States. They waited, I think, to build up a new news story, and they got it, believe me. And this is an important moment for Kamala Harris. She now has the backing of Barack and Michelle. She has the backing of Bill and Hillary. She has the backing of the Democratic establishment. And she has the delegates to win the nomination. So we now know that Kamala Harris will be the Democratic nominee for President of the United States. Donald Trump is reluctant at this point to get on the stage and debate her. His excuse, she hasn't been formally nominated. Let me point out that in his debate, or joint appearance, with Joe Biden, neither Biden nor Trump had yet been formally nominated. So this is an excuse, perhaps because the Trump people are very concerned. There is enthusiasm building for Kamala Harris, and the Trump people can see that she is a prosecutor and that she intends to take the case against Donald Trump to the American people. It will be a fascinating moment in American politics. The other big news, we are now told that Kamala Harris will make her decision sometime in the next 10 days over who her vice presidential nominee will be. It's not necessarily important because, as you know, the American people don't vote for a vice president, they vote for a president. But this is significant because it will be her first major decision, as Donald Trump's first major decision was the nomination of J.D. Vance to be his candidate for vice president. Let me point out the Republicans are now having second thoughts about J.D. Vance. He has now alienated cat owners, single people in this country who do or do not have children, people who are married who don't have children. I mean, he's just alienated just about everybody you could, and Donald Trump can't afford that alienation. So we now face a fascinating moment. Will Donald Trump simply stand up and say, "You're fired"? Well, he can't really do that. J.D. Vance is the nominee legally of the Republican Party. And the last time, by the way, we had a vacancy in the vice presidency in terms of a nomination was when Tom Eagleton left the ticket and George McGovern replaced him with Sargent Shriver. Let me remind you that occurrence, that replacement took place because the National Committee met and selected a new candidate. Of course, George McGovern named him. And that would mean, without a doubt, that if there were a vacancy, the Republican National Committee would have to step in. I don't believe that's going to happen. I think for Donald Trump to jettison J.D. Vance would hurt his campaign considerably. After all, his political judgment and his hiring judgment on The Apprentice is what made him a celebrity. There is another battle going on. It's the battle of the bookstores. And that is, whose book is more popular, Kamala Harris's or J.D. Vance? It's a good question. Let me just point out to you that I have both books. I have read both books. And there is no doubt in my mind that J.D. Vance wrote a great book. It's fascinating reading. Kamala Harris's autobiography, equally compelling and important. And so we look now to the literary aspects of a presidential campaign. There is yet more news developing, and that is that Benjamin Netanyahu came to Washington and spoke to the Congress. It was a very effective speech. As one of my colleagues suggested, it was Churchillian in its nature, no doubt about it. But rhetoric alone cannot win a war. Rhetoric alone cannot convince people one way or the other. I hasten to point out that Kamala Harris received some criticism for not being present and presiding when Benjamin Netanyahu spoke to the Congress. By the way, that's not unusual when you're running for president of the United States and you've got campaign appearances, as she did, and they couldn't be rescheduled and shouldn't be rescheduled. She's running a campaign. Oh, and by the way, J.D. Vance, the nominee for vice president of the Republicans, wasn't present either. But what is important is that Kamala Harris met with Benjamin Netanyahu yesterday and came out with a powerful statement, pointing out that she indeed, as a child, had helped plant trees in Israel, as she, as a child, had been very involved with the Jewish community and its efforts on behalf of Israel. And so I have no doubt about Kamala Harris's commitment. I think what we are now seeing is a clear and evident discussion, which is necessary, about the future of peace in the Middle East. Donald Trump will today, appropriately, meet with Benjamin Netanyahu. Nothing wrong with that, not at all. If I were the prime minister or the president of a nation, I would want to meet the candidates for president, clearly, and have a chance to explain my positions. The American support for Israel, both by Democrats and Republicans, is firm and convincing. And I believe that whoever the next president of the United States is, we will always bear in mind that Israel is one of our major allies in the world. So I have no worry about the American-Israeli relationship. I think it is important also to note that as this campaign evolves, every day there will be something else. You will note that Speaker Johnson has urged Republicans not to make race or gender an issue in the presidential campaign. Republicans, however, seem convinced that if they go after Kamala Harris because of the color of her skin and the fact that she is a woman, that it will benefit them. It is a huge error, and I think Republicans will learn that lesson quickly. So we'll see who they listen to, Speaker Johnson or Donald Trump. Fascinating moment in the history of American politics. This will be an exciting weekend as well. Of course, I'm not back till Monday, but I know that on Monday we will have a lot to talk about. Thanks for tuning into another episode of Around the Political World with John Ruffman. Make sure to follow along and let me know your thoughts on the show by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts and sharing an episode with a friend or colleague so we can continue to grow. And of course, you can be in touch with me both on LinkedIn and on Facebook. My special appreciation, of course, always to Gogo Zoger, the wonderful producer of this podcast. So that's it for now. I will see you Monday. We'll be back for another episode of Around the Political World with John Ruffman. I can't wait. See you then. Around the Political World with John Ruffman is proud to introduce our first sponsor. That's right. We have someone who loves what we do, and I have to tell you, I love what she does. Be Bold America is produced by KSQD, and of course, the person who leads us through these great discussions is none other than Jill Cody. She's an author, a radio personality, and she does one heck of a job of putting into focus major issues, from protecting democracy to our climate. Let me tell you, the topics on the podcast are serious. It's not for the faint of heart, but that's to say the show is for all of us. Be bold in America. In an election year, what can we do to increase discussion, debate, and the rest? I'll tell you what we can do. Listen to Jill Cody as she exposes all of us to the issues. You can tune in on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever else you like to get your shows. So this is John Ruffman, delighted, pleased, thrilled to endorse Jill Cody's wonderful program, Be Bold, America.